Assalamualaikum everyone. I am Manahil Remarj of Wali. I am a student of Rehan School, Kuringi campus, and I am thrilled to be here today for a fascinating interview. Our guest needs no introduction, Matt Singers, a renowned people management coach, people advisory consultant, and CEO of Matt Singer Management Consulting. We are privileged to have Mads with us today, and we are eager to delve into her remarkable journey and insights. So, without further ado, let's get this conversation started. How are you, sir?
I am fantastic. Excited for our conversation today.
I also excited. So, sir, first of all, please introduce yourself for my viewers.
Yes, of course. So my name is Matt Singers. I currently live a little bit all over the world, but I spend a lot of time in Asia. So I live a lot of time in Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines type of thing, and spend a bit of time in India as well. But fundamentally, I'm from Denmark originally. About 20 years ago, I left Denmark and moved to the UK and learned a whole bunch of stuff about management. And eventually, about 10 years ago, I left the corporate world to start my own company. And nowadays, I own a whole bunch of businesses, which is a lot of fun. And my core passion in life is teaching others how to be good managers, how to be a good boss, and how to get the most out of the people that you work with. So that's my fundamental passion.
Alright, great. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for your introduction. So now let's move on to questions. My first question is on your screen. Can you briefly highlight your background and experience as a people management coach and people advisory consultant?
Yeah. So again, from a people management coaching perspective, I've been coaching business owners and managers for the last 10 plus years. And generally for me, the biggest challenge, if you look at the world, the biggest challenge is unemployment. I think most of the problems that you see all around the world is caused by unemployment, right? So I'm a big believer in the fact that if we can create more great jobs in great successful businesses, the world is going to be a better place. And reality is most people who have a job don't appreciate it very much, and a lot of the time that's because unfortunately the leaders they have is not particularly well developed, and no one is trying to do a bad job. Even leaders that you might think is very a bad boss per se, they're generally not trying to do a bad job, right? They just don't know any better. And yeah, my focus is very much about helping them become better leaders and better managers, and help them take better care of the team, because I believe fundamentally no human being wakes up in the morning and wanting to do a bad job, right? And some people do a bad job, but it's either because they're the wrong person for the role, or they might be in a tough spot, but no one want to do a bad job ever, right?
Alright, that's great. Thank you so much for your answer. So now let's move on to next question. My next question is, what are the key principles of effective people management and emphasize in your coaching and training?
Right. So the key things for me is fundamentally about learning to understand humans and learning to understand individuals, right? A lot of the time when people are managing others, they're managing people the same way, and they're often managing and dealing with people the way they want to be dealt with themselves. But the thing is, people are different. So if you as a human are super motivated by money, that doesn't mean everyone around you have the same motivation. All right. So learning to actually understand different people for me is an absolute key principle, because fundamental good management is learning how to put the right people into the right jobs and the right roles, and giving the right people the right responsibilities. That's a huge part of it. And it's a huge part of the success, both for the development of those people, but also just for the success of the company. So fundamental understanding people. Secondly, it's making sure that you build good relationships with all the people that report to you. So when you're dealing with your staff, right? Like you don't have to be friends with everyone. So it doesn't mean you have to go and hang out with people after work, but you have to build a good level of rapport. You have to build a good level of respect, and you have to build a good relationship, because if people don't feel you care about them, you're never going to get the best work out of them, right? And that's important. And I think one of the last pieces, or one of the most important ones at least, is very focused on delegation. So really giving people responsibility and ownership and so on. Again, most people want to grow. Most people want to do a great job and get cool responsibility, right? And that's important. So as a leader, it's very important to recognize and help people grow. And again, people grow at different speed. They want to learn different things. Not everyone want to learn the same, but that's sort of the core aspects of it.
All right, wonderful answer. Thank you so much for your answer. So now let's move on to next question. My next question is, what is the fundamental difference between leading and managing people, and how does this impact business success?
Yeah, I honestly I put them together a lot, and I do that because I don't believe you can be a great manager without being a leader, and I don't believe you can be a great leader without managing others, right? So often leadership is more about inspiration and, you know, taking the lead and so on. But fundamentally, for me, the way I teach management, it's very much combined, right? Um, a lot of the time, people, that there's a lot of sort of memes and stuff around, and where you see, okay, a leader is someone who step ups and do the work, and a manager is just sitting in the back and telling everyone what to do, right? And that's, neither of those are particularly true. If you want to be a good leader, it's not about doing all the work. It's about empowering the people around you to do the best they possibly can, right? That's fundamental leadership, and fundamental management is the same thing. It's getting the most out of people. And both roles is really about one key aspect, which is prioritization, right? Like in life, being effective in terms of understanding what is the most important thing that needs to be done, that is a fundamental critical skill. It doesn't matter if you're in school, if you're running a company, if you're doing a job. If you learn to understand what is the most important thing I can do to make a difference, because most people, they just look at a to-do list, they look at a big list and they say, okay, I have to do all these things. But reality is the importance between all of those things. When you're studying, for example, right, there's certain pages, there's certain concepts that are way more important to understand than others, right? And the same thing in business. Like if you have a 40-hour job and you work 40 hours a week, there's certain things you're doing that is incredibly more valuable than other things you're doing. And learning to understand what those are, learning to understand that from the leaders, the managers around you, what the most important and critical things are, is a very important aspect.
All right, great. Great. Thank you so much, sir, for this answer. So now let's move on to next question. My next question is, how does your program address the challenges that new managers often face within their first 2 years in a position?
Yeah, so I have a great management training course, and basically the essence of that for me is I've taken what I've learned the last 20 years and I've really boiled it down, right? Reality is management, like, I could sit around and talk about management for the next 3 months, right? There's a lot of things to talk about, but just as I just talked about with priorities, it's understanding what are the most important aspects and how can you learn those aspects in a relatively short span of time. So basically my training, it's a 5-hour training. So even very busy business owners can find 5 hours at some point in their month, right? And it's basically the most important things. Now, just going through the training obviously is not the same as doing it, but the fact that you can go through the training in 5 hours gives you a good heads up. You get a good overview of all the things that are critically important to know as a leader and a manager, and it helps you put yourself into a position where you can start implementing those different aspects, right? And that's really what the focus is.
All right, that's really wonderful. Thank you so much for your answer. So now let's move on to the next question. My next question is, could you outline some core topics and skills participants can expect to learn in your effective management mastery course?
Yes, of course. So basically, there's 8 modules. So as I said, it's around 5 hours worth of video, and there's 8 modules. Number one is learning personality. So learning to understand different people, learning to understand just by communicating, talking with other people, you can generally learn enough about them in a couple of minutes to understand their personality, right? So that's the first module. Second module is all about doing one-to-one meetings with the staff that report to you. And that's about, how do you have an effective meeting? How do you build relationship? How do you make sure you talk about performance on a regular basis and so on? And how do you talk about development, right? So how do you talk about how they want to grow and develop in the future and where they want to end up and so on, right? So that's the second one. The third module is all about team meetings. So when you do a team meeting with your team, how do you do that the most effective? Fourth one is all about delegation and learning how to let go as a leader, how to, not just sit and try and do everything yourself, but really learn how to let go and give your staff leadership and responsibility. Fifth one is all about how to set goals effectively and how to, with goal setting, how to effectively give people goals that encourage them, but also make them think outside the box. Module number 6 is all about giving feedback. And that's all about how do you give people effective feedback that isn't about criticizing, it's not about bringing people down, but how do you give people feedback in a quick, effective manner that actually help them improve and become better. And 7th module is about hiring. So how to hire the right people and all the mindset about hiring the right people and so on. And the 8th module is about how to fire, how to let go of people based on the different circumstances. So that's a brief overview of what the course is all about.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for your answer. So, what common fears and concerns do individuals have regarding people management, and how do you address them in your program?
Yeah, so I'd say that there's a couple of things that people fear. The first one, honestly, is most people tell themselves, "Oh, I'm a bad manager." But reality is, for most people, is they've never spent any time learning. And the thing is, if you've never, like, with all skills, I mean, if you have never done a video like we're doing right now before, if you've never done it, you're probably not great at it, right? When you've done it a bunch of times, you get better. And it's just the same with management, right? So the biggest fear for most people is fundamentally, oh, just, I'm not good at management. I can't do it. I don't know how to do it. And how I try and address it is, again, give people a relatively sort of short form of good management training that brings them up to speed very quickly and really gets into the right mindset more than anything. So I think that's probably the biggest fear. Um, in terms of doing the training, there's a lot of things that people don't know how to, and I guess that's the biggest concern, right? Like, oh, I've tried this thing, but it didn't go well. So again, I talk a lot about how to do things, and I talk a lot about the mindset behind why you do it, and help people understand the whys and the how, and that usually removes most of the fear and most of the concerns they have. So.
All right, great answer. Thank you so much for your answer. So, my next question is, how do you tailor your coaching approach to meet the specific needs of your client, considering the various formats you offer?
Yeah, so again, this is similar to management. So the thing is, my clients are all different kind of personalities, and because they're all different kind of personalities, they often have different things they struggle with. So some people very much struggle with delegation. Some people very much struggle to communicate to other humans. Like, I work with a lot of technical people, that just like sitting down, they like sitting staring at their computer all day, but actually having to talk to other people is a bit scary for them, right? So they all have different sort of core challenges, and that's what I spend my time on in my coaching is, helping them both mitigate where they're really struggling, so mitigate the areas they're really struggling with, but first and foremost, it's really to help people understand what is their core strength. Because if we want to succeed in life, it's all about figuring out what am I really good at and doing more of that. A lot of time in school, we kind of taught that, hey, you suck at this thing, you need to work on it. But reality is in life, you're successful because of the things you're great at, not because of the things you're not great at. All right. So most success, both in the business world and in any kind of success in the world, really comes from spending significant time and effort on making sure that you're really growing and you're really putting effort behind improving the things that you're already good at. And that's the same thing that I do with my clients fundamentally.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for your answer. My next question is, what's the best of individual to reach out to you and success your coaching services or podcast?
Yes. So the best way is just to go to my website, mattsingers.com. Um, lots of lots of good material. Again, I'm on all the social medias as well. So LinkedIn, probably the best place to connect. I recommend everyone to be on LinkedIn generally. And feel free for anyone to connect with me on LinkedIn. Always good to connect with people and always good to see more of what people post.
All right, sir. Thank you for your answer. So, what advice would you offer to those looking to improve their people management skills and achieve business or career growth?
Right. Yeah, in both cases, honestly, I would do the same. It's like with everything else, it's about getting started, right? You can learn a lot. Like there's a ton of great learning materials. There's a ton of great books. There's a ton of other people than me who have great courses on learning how to lead and manage well. So generally, the world is not in need of material. They're not in need of knowledge. What you want to do is, if there's skills you want to learn, you want to take um, ideally set a time aside on a regular daily basis. So if you spend 30 minutes or an hour every day learning new things, over time you will far overtake everyone else. Because reality is most people in this world don't spend much time growing and developing themselves, right? They often sit down, they try and learn something for a day or two, but over time, like between I was the age of 18 and 30, I read more than 500 books, right? So I read roughly a book a week for a long time. And, that enabled me to learn a lot of things and gain a lot of skills. And reality is most of my friends, they spend a couple of hours every day sitting, staring at Netflix or doing other things. And yeah, that's what set you apart. So if you want to be successful in life in general, um, put some focused action towards some of the things that you dream about. And just like what you're doing here, right? It's very easy for people to sort of say, "Oh, I can't do this, I can't do that." And I know a lot of people nowadays that says, "Oh, I would love to start a podcast, or I would love to start a YouTube," and I just tell them, "Do it." Right? Like yes, it's scary in the beginning, but reality is when you've done it 10 times, you're better than the first time. When you've done it 100 times, you're probably good at it, right? And most things just take deliberate practice. And as long as you focus on that, as long as you focus on growing and improving yourself, that is really all it takes. And second thing I would say is that networking and getting to know people around you is critically important, right? Most people miss out totally on this aspect, right? They think it's just getting a job is about sending out a million resumes or something like that. And reality is for most job, there's thousands of candidates. The likelihood that you end up getting the job is generally slim. The way most jobs are given, or the way most people get jobs, particularly great jobs, is by knowing people who are hiring, and the person hiring know that they're good, trusted, and in general a trustworthy individual, and therefore end up giving them the job without posting it anywhere in most cases, right? So really building network, getting to know a lot of great people, both in your field of expertise and in the area of what you want to do. And I mean, I love the way you reached out to me, right? Here's the thing, no one does it. Like you send me an email or a message and you're like, hey, I'm doing this interview. I'd love to have you on. And reality is no one does it, right? One of the things I did in my early career was I would open LinkedIn, I would search for interesting people, and I would just shoot them a message and say, hey, we live in the same city. I would love to buy you a cup of coffee someday. And I met with a whole bunch of people because no one else did this. And I ended up meeting with people who were sometimes a CEO of a bank and, some very interesting people that I would otherwise never have met. So a lot of the time, meeting cool people, meeting people who are interested in the same thing as you, even just starting a group. Like there's great websites like meetup.com or something. And if you're into podcasting, for example, or if you're into doing video, like you can literally start a video sort of meeting group once a week, right? Or once a month or whatever. Set it up, put it on Facebook, put it on Meetup or whatever, and just say, hey, we're meeting at this location. And, the first time there might only be 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people coming, and that's great. But the whole thing is, again, if you're the one arranging it, everyone starts looking at you as being the expert, right? And that way you can suddenly connect to a lot of other like-minded people. You can build a lot of network. You can enable yourself to learn much more, learn much faster, and yeah, much more opportunity for career, much more opportunity for growth in general.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for your answer. So now let's move on to next question. My next question is: can you tell us a book or movie that has had a significant impact on you, on your life, and why?
Yes, that's a great book that I'm actually rereading at the moment with my girlfriend, called The Obstacle is the Way. So I think from a mindset perspective, that one can teach people a lot of things about. A lot of the time, as human beings, we have a lot of emotional reactions to things that happen to us or things that happen around us and how we perceive them. And The Obstacle is a book by Ryan Holiday, and that's a book I thoroughly enjoy a lot. And reading it with my girlfriend, rereading it again is super fun, and we're both learning a lot. So that's, I think, from a mindset, overall life perspective, that's number one. And if we're looking at it from a management standpoint, there's a book called First Break All the Rules, and most people love that title. But fundamentally, it's all about what the greatest managers do differently. So there's a lot of data, there's a lot of ways of thinking of different types of leaders. A lot of the time, the challenge in leadership is people look at all these famous personalities like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk, and they're like, okay, to be successful, I have to be like they are. But reality is you don't, right? They are a certain way, and most people by nature are not like them. So the essence of First Break All the Rules is basically helping figure out what kind of leader are you, and really understanding, many different options, many different ways of other people leading really well based on who they are and their own personality.
All right, that's great. Thank you so much for your answer. So, can you share a valuable life lesson or piece of advice that you will learn along the way?
Yes, definitely. I think definitely a big one is, as I already mentioned, around networking, right? I think that's definitely probably the biggest piece of advice that most people hear. They listen to it and they don't do it. So I think that's probably number one. In terms of things I haven't mentioned yet, I think a great piece of life advice is around doing things more, thinking more about the things you're doing. So I stopped watching TV when I was 15, and that's probably the best thing I've ever done for myself as a human being. Generally, in the world, we are so bombarded all the time with information, and people are stuck to their phones and all this good stuff. But reality is that it's rarely things that bring us success, right? So getting information coming to you and constantly being bombarded with information doesn't necessarily enable you to succeed. Success is about sitting down, learning specific skills, and putting yourself in a situation where you can use that knowledge in an effective manner, right?
That's really wonderful. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your invaluable knowledge and experiences with us today. It's been an enlightening conversation, and we will learn a great deal about effective people management and its significance in achieving success. To our audience, remember that you can connect with Mads and explore his coaching services and podcasts on his website madsingers.com or book a call with her with his through stp currently.com Mad Singer Catcher. And to stay updated with more insightful interviews and content, please subscribe, like, and share. Your support keeps us going. Once again, Matt Singer, thank you for joining us today. It's been a pleasure having you here, and we wish you continued success in all your future endeavors. That's a wrap for today's interview. Until next time, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right. Bye. Have a wonderful day ahead.
Likewise.